Hi everyone, welcome to this in-depth video on the origins of Bitcoin or the history of Bitcoin and the mystery of Satoshi Nakamoto. So based on the some of the academic research that I made, so I thought that it is good to share the history of Bitcoin and some of the facts and figures about the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, because that more than the Bitcoin, the most interesting part about the blockchain is who created the Bitcoin. That is the most interesting part, the most compelling. What makes this story even more compelling is the figure or perhaps figure. So behind it all, the Satoshi Nakamoto. So there are a lot of questions whether he was a lone genius, whether Bitcoin was created by a group of collaborators or something else entirely. So I have compiled a detailed history of Bitcoin, including the facts and figures about the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto. So to start with, uh, if we refer to the some of the earlier publications, and particularly those books written in 2011, 12, and 2013, 14, and those old files still archived by the Nakamoto Institute, we can see a lot of the facts and figures about the things happened in 2000 between 2008 and 2011 and thereafter. So we start with about so I have compiled based on what had actually happened in 2008, 9, 10, and 11. So in 2008, the bitcoin.org domain was actually registered using the service called anonymous speech. Satoshi Nakamoto used this for platform because this platform never provide respond for anyone asking. Actually, anyone if anyone asks about who created this, so then most of the time the response is null. So what I want to say out here is the first actually public sign of Bitcoin's existence appeared with the anonymous registration of the bitcoin.org. So and this way, which was done through anonymous speech. This anonymous speech simply it is a service that allowed people to register domains like bitcoin.org without revealing their identities. And when it was registered, so that actually August 18, 2008 marked the start of what would become the world's first decentralized digital currency, which is known as Bitcoin today. Today, which is known as Bitcoin. Then the on October 31st, 2008, just a couple of months later, August, September, October, just a couple of months later, Satoshi Nakamoto actually published the famous white paper titled called Bitcoin a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So in that white paper, what he did was he outlined the solution to the long-standing the double spending problem in digital currencies. So introducing a new way for transaction to occur without the need for trusted third party or intermediaries. And today, the Bitcoin white paper has become the foundational document for the entire cryptocurrency movement. And that Bitcoin white paper, which has around 900 plus words, is full of insights, and it actually covers multiple subjects and multiple topics. And it is, I would say, the most the creative paper that actually ever written. And next is the next what happened was on January 9, 2009, the Bitcoin version, software version 1 was released by Satoshi Nakamoto, which actually enable everyone having a simple laptop to mine Bitcoin. But if you refer to the history of Bitcoin, only few actually knew. Many might have actually heard about Bitcoin, but many actually actually could not understand the what actually Bitcoin does by that time. But what I want to say out here is by having released that Bitcoin software, it actually back then allowed anyone to mine Bitcoin even using a simple laptop. And then the next is the on January 12, 2009, after Bitcoin software was released, then Satoshi Nakamoto sent 10 Bitcoin to the renowned programmer Hal Finney. Unfortunately, Hal Finney has actually expired somewhere in 2014. What I want to say out here is, by having sent 10 Bitcoin to Halfini, that was some kind of historical record, historic moment for having executed the financial transaction without the involvement of conventional banks or the trusted third parties. And then next is the January and July 2009, almost 6 to 7 months. During this period, Nakamoto mined over a million bitcoins. So his early mining dominance remains a source of very interesting or fascination, because if you refer to the some of the today's blockchain explorer, we can see that there are still almost 1 million plus Bitcoin still untouched. And it is estimated that Satoshi controls around 5% of all the Bitcoins. And that makes him the most, I would say, the billionaire. However, even after today is around 2024, today is 2024. So even after more than a decade, Satoshi Nakamoto never spent a single one. And when he does like that, by having never spent a single one, that actually add more to the already the concealed or some kind of allure or some kind of mystery of the Satoshi Nakamoto. And next is the origins of Bitcoin, the Satoshi's early work. So if you refer to the some of the things happened in 2008, 2009, 10, 11, and some of the early users actually has asked Satoshi Nakamoto when actually he started to work on Bitcoin. So he said that he actually never mentioned 2007, and but what he said was 18 months before. That means when he responded this in 2009, so the year falls to 2007, 18 months. And next is the B money. So in August 2008, the Satoshi reached out to Vidai for glitter of B money. So this earlier digital currency concept introduced ideas that closely resemble to Bitcoin system. So Satoshi Nakamoto had actually reached out to Vidai so that he can give a credit or some kind of academic reference in the Bitcoin white paper. So if you refer to the Bitcoin white paper, there are 8 references given. So one of them is the Vidai's B money, and B money actually shares same kind of ideas to that of Bitcoin. The only difference is that Bitcoin B money was, unlike Bitcoin, was more focused on some kind of running node through using server, whereas Bitcoin is distributed. And and the next is the email timeline. So between August 2009 and November 2010, Satoshi Nakamoto remains active, posting on forums, responding to emails. He's quite active. Even if you read the forums, you can see that there he provided a lot of response, this and that. The next is on December 12, 2010, Satoshi Nakamoto made a last the forum post. Then this is the last forum post. The last email he sent to was on to April 26, 2011. And this after that, Satoshi Nakamoto never actually came back and started chatting, or I mean posting on forum. Then next is the insights from Satoshi Nakamoto's writings in code. So that is the how prolific, how methodological writing actually he was having. So if you refer to some of the writings by Satoshi Nakamoto, mainly the forum post there, he made actually 575 forum posts between 2008 to 2011. 2011 April, actually he made 575 posts. And if you read between 2009 and 2011, Satoshi Nakamoto, not 2008, 2009 and 11, Satoshi Nakamoto wrote around 80,000 plus words. So if you read the forum post he made, his communication styles is very clear, highly technical, and almost flawless in the grammar and structure. Only in a very few cases he made a mistake, like writing admining instead of administering, OBS instead of an OBS. So what I want to say is He actually displayed a deep understanding not only of technology but also of human psychology, often explaining Bitcoin's implication with clarity that suggested careful thought and planning. And the next is despite having Japanese names, so Satoshi Nakamoto, so often used British spellings. In that forum, you can see that he has to use British spellings. Then his email was actually, of course, German provider. So by having used German email, then British English spelling, and then Japanese name, that actually added some kind of layer to the complexity of this identity. And by having what I want to summarize, what I want to say particularly for this is Satoshi Nakamoto's way of reasoning, writing was writing shows that he was not only a man or not only having someone with computer or economic skills but also a perfect or better writer. Then next is the Nakamoto's expertise, that is multidisciplinary genius. So we call it as a polymath. Polymath means good, not ex good in multiple fields. To create Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto needed a profound understanding of cryptography, computer science, and economics and network theory, distributed network theory. So this expertise suggests either a polymath or a team of specialists. That means Bitcoin is actually either created by someone or a team of specialists, because an individual having uh, skills in multiple subjects is very, actually, I would say, less chance. But by having created like Bitcoin, uh, one way it shows that the combination of skill is actually one reason many speculate that Satoshi Nakamoto might not be a single individual. But Bitcoin shows that whoever created it was not only having a computer knowledge but also economics, law and I mean the network theory and the cryptography. And also the last part is the C++ programming, which was used for the Bitcoin. Then next is the now Satoshi Nakamoto's traits, that is the humility and lack of greed. In the forum, most of the posts he wrote, actually it has no I mean the most of the sentences, most of the paragraphs are full of positivity, I would say. And also, even after having invented Bitcoin, he actually never boasted about himself. So in one of the forum posts, he said, "I'm a better with a code than with words." And also, he was not motivated by wealth, because between 2009, as I said earlier, 2009 January to July, he actually dominated the Bitcoin network, because back then there could be a few miners. And during that time, the number of Bitcoin he mined is around 11 lakhs 48,800 Bitcoins. This is the exact figure that I have taken from the book written by some popular author. With the title of the book is Bitcoin, the Fee is the Future of Money. So which was actually written by Dominic Frisby. So in that book, it says that Satoshi mined over around 11 lakhs 48,800 Bitcoins, and it has never moved. And if he sell this many Bitcoins, he would become the billionaire. And next is the Genesis block. That's the first block. So Genesis block, this is actually very interesting about the Bitcoin. So that's the first block in the Bitcoin blockchain, which is known as the Genesis block, that was mined on January 3rd, 2009. But while that's the Genesis block, the next block is, there is a gap of around 6 days, I think 6 days. And there is also there is no technical clear cut reason why there was a gap between first block and the Genesis block. I would say Genesis block or the block one. I mean block. I mean the block one and the Genesis block. Why there is a gap of 6 days? So if you try to find out, there is no clear-cut technical reason. But from that, from the other block, you can see that there is a gap of 10 minutes. But what I want to say out here is in the first block, which is now known as Genesis block, so Satoshi Nakamoto embedded the message. So we says that the chancellor, I mean the in that message, we can even see that the time is 3rd January 2009, chancellor on the brink of second ballot for banks. So this headline, which was taken from the UK newspaper, was likely actually a critic of the traditional or conventional financial system. So by referencing the bank bailouts during the financial crisis in 2008, Satoshi Nakamoto underscored Bitcoin's purpose as an alternative to a system he sought as a flawed. And 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 this message is, as I said earlier, widely interpreted as a critic to the traditional financial system where it actually functions as a trusted third party. Then next is the Satoshi Nakamoto's chosen date of birth. So Satoshi Nakamoto was born on April 5, 1975. So that is his, to say literally, that is his date of birth. But the reason why he selected April 5, 1975 as his date of birth on the P2P Foundation profile is that uh, this date is quite symbolic because it coincides with the US government's decision to allow private ownership private ownership of gold after it was banned in 1933. So it was banned in 1933 by the US President Franklin, but on April 5, 1975, US government actually reversed, changed that decision and make it legal. I mean, made it legal. It was legalized for anyone to any American citizens can hold the. I mean, can own the gold. So, but this shows that Satoshi Nakamoto was aiming for a decentralized and fully some kind of autonomy, some kind of a full decentralization. So that this April 5, 1975 carries a very significance, and also it shows that Satoshi Nakamoto was also a perfect in, I mean, he was excelled in monetary economics. Beside his computer cryptography and other law knowledge. And next is the clues and speculations of Satoshi Nakamoto. So if you refer to this book is actually the best book ever written on the Bitcoin, and this was written by Dominic Fisby. So if you refer to this book, you can see that Satoshi Nakamoto actually used the Windows operating system, and he compiled the Bitcoin's code using the Microsoft Visual Studio, and then his address was 133 Sakura House, Nakanoku, Tokyo, and this was the postcode. But in reality, this doesn't actually exist. And also, there are some kind of theories about the name. So some believe that Satoshi Nakamoto is an acronym representing major tech companies like Samsung, Toshiba, Nakamichi, and Motorola. But in reality, the meaning of Satoshi translate as a clear thinking or wise, brilliant. That is the I mean the translation. That is the meaning of the Satoshi Nakamoto. And next is Bitcoin the work of a group or an individual? Was the Bitcoin created by someone who actually formed a group or an individual? So when we read the white paper, we can see that there is a use of phrase called "we propose." So that shows that it was some kind of collaborative effort. But I feel that "we propose" was said because when we refer to the Bitcoin's white paper's reference, there are 8 references, and all that references accept the probability theory distribution Others are all trying to propose the idea about decentralized digital currency. So I feel that there is some kind of linkage, but the work of genius are really the protocol committees, and historically those ideas are actually typically created by single mind. Then next is the Satoshi Nakamoto's consistent writing style. So if in the forum post, if the post in the forums were made by the multiple others, definitely writing styles will be different, but the writing styles are consistent. Even the ways the sentences are started and ended, there are some kind of very profound, very better level of consistency being maintained. And also there are no noticeable variations or differences that actually indicate the work of a different people. And the challenge of secrecy is that it is far more difficult for a group to keep secret compared to an individual. So it will be easy for group to leak the information if compared to the individual. So that means the Bitcoin was created by individual. So if Bitcoin were the creation of team, it is unlikely the two identities of Satoshi Nakamoto would remain hidden for so long. So by this time, we would have known who actually created Bitcoin. Now next is, why did Satoshi Nakamoto fade away? Why did Satoshi Nakamoto actually disappear? By sending his last mail, by sending his last mail on April 26, 2011. Why he disappeared? So first is mission accomplished in community leadership. So by December 2010, when he made his last forum post, Bitcoin had a growing user base and was by the time operational. So Satoshi Nakamoto has seen that his creation of the idea, the Bitcoin, has taken the root, has set up the foundation, and the community could continue its development without his presence. So his final message was, I have moved on to other things. So that implies a sense of closure, as if mission was complete. The next is number third is legal and regulatory concerns. So as Bitcoin grew, it attracted attention from regulators and governments. So Satoshi Nakamoto's departure might have been a strategic move to avoid the legal challenges that could arise from Bitcoin's success. So in 2000, after the success of Bitcoin, after 2 to 3 years, we can see that some of those early adopters actually land up in prison. So that could be the reason. So fearing the legal challenges, Satoshi Nakamoto might have actually disappeared. Then the scalability challenges in blockchain. There we call it a blockchain trilemma, which consists of security, scalability, and decentralization. So one is scalability. So with Bitcoin gaining momentum, so issues like scalability and transaction speed became the more prominent. Scalability, in the sense that it's all about the transaction. We call it TPS, transaction per second, or block size. All about scalability is all about the performance. So Satoshi Nakamoto might have thought that by stepping aside, it will allow others to adapt the network to these challenges. So maybe that is recognizing that his own vision would be best realized through the input of a larger community. So and also some say that he could not solve the problem of Bitcoin block size. And if you see that the transaction per second of Bitcoin, it's quite low. But this could be these are just some kind of the hypothesis. This could be some of the reasons why Satoshi Nakamoto disappeared or fade away. Then next, on the next part, I'll speak about the hunting. Not night hunting, but hunting for Satoshi Nakamoto. And this is the statue of the Bitcoin creator Satoshi Nakamoto, which is located in Hungary. And out to the left is the computer scientist, highly respected one, cryptographer, monetary, I would say, monetary economist or expert in the money. Is he is called by name Nick Szabo, and I have specifically kept this image out here because among all the cryptographers that were there in 1990s, 1980s, and Nick Szabo is the only cryptographer, only guy who is actually closest to the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto. While he actually has refused, he has claimed that he is not Satoshi Nakamoto, but those facts and figures about what he did, how he tried to hide, and also his brilliant ideas being shared at his blog called Unenumerated, it shows that his ideas actually helped Satoshi Nakamoto in creating the most innovative like Bitcoin. So in the next part, I'll bring in detail about facts and figures and why he is the closest identity to the creator of Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto. So thank you for watching.